What I'm going to take you guys through today is about emotional intelligence. I'm going to be asking you some questions, getting your opinion, and hopefully have a bit of a breakout session. Considering there's only 3 of us in the room, no one will be leaving the room. We're just having a chat in the room. But I'd like everyone to share their view if you can. So, just to cover some objectives, what we're going to do, the session should last about an hour. We'll see if we can have a breakout in between, or a little break if needed, but we'll see how it goes through that. But the objectives for today is we're going to talk about what we think emotional intelligence is. We'll watch a little video about the 5 key elements of emotional intelligence, what the impact of high emotional intelligence is, how can we improve it, and then we'll touch on what makes a good leader within the organisation. All right? Yep. Thank you very much. So, first little breakout session, what do you think emotional intelligence is to you?
Shall I kick us off then?
Yes, that'd be great, thank you.
So for me, I think emotional intelligence is being able to have awareness of your own emotions, other people's emotions, and how you might be able to influence them for small and working emotions.
Mm-hmm. Perfect, thank you. Jazz?
Yeah, I suppose extend everything what Connie said, but just kind of taking a second to think about, read the room and how everyone else is feeling and how you use that to kind of communicate and work with people around you.
It's all about controlling your emotions as well, and like varying situations, different situations. Yeah, you just have to be aware of how you have to basically your actions in the moment. So
Yeah, it's a bit of self-regulation.
Yeah.
Definitely. So how common do you think high emotional intelligence is within the workplace?
Not common enough. I think it depends on the situation. So things like if you are in a situation that you're prepared for, you might be able to regulate or control your emotions a little bit more than something where you feel a bit unprepared and in a bit more stressful situation. But equally, I think it's something that needs to be practiced. Something to work. I would always say not common enough.
I tend to agree with you, because it's one of those things that we're not actually taught it from a younger age. I think as more society moves along, people are placing more importance on emotional intelligence, but it's something that's companies that we're facing on. And especially from a leadership perspective, it's something that is quite high value on, and it is something, like you say, it's something that can be developed, should be prioritised. So one of the definitions of emotional intelligence, as you guys have kind of alluded to already, says it refers to the ability to recognise, understand, manage and use emotions effectively in oneself and interactions with others. So it is that reading the room kind of aspect, like knowing your audience, having the self-regulation to know how you're handling the situation, having self-awareness to know how you're handling it, and just trying to make the best of the situations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a very short video of someone who's just going to talk through the 5 different elements of emotional intelligence, touch on the key points, and then we'll go through a bit of discussion point after that.
When you think about an effective leader, what characteristics? Or you picture someone who listens to their team. They stay cool under pressure, know when to trust their intuition, and they never let their emotions get the best of them. People like this have a high degree of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, or EI, is the ability to recognize your emotions, understand them, and see how they affect those around you. Having high emotional intelligence also means you understand other people's emotions. This allows you to manage your relationships better and avoid potential conflicts. There are 5 elements that define emotional intelligence. The first is self-awareness. When you're self-aware, you know how you're feeling all of the time, and you understand how those feelings are affecting the people around you. The second characteristic is self-regulation. This is the ability to control your emotions and actions. You can develop self-regulation by living your values and by holding yourself accountable when you make a mistake. The next element of emotional intelligence is motivation. Highly motivated people put off short-term rewards for long-term success. The fourth element is empathy. This is when you have the ability to identify with other people and understand their wants, needs, and viewpoints. Finally, having good social skills is also critically important. This helps you work positively with other people and manage conflict effectively. Having high emotional intelligence is crucial in today's workplace. If you can build and maintain strong relationships, then you can work happily and productively with the people around you. It's also one of the key attributes of being an effective leader. You can find out more about how to
I'm not very good at articles. Okay. Right. So as you mentioned, you've got the 5 key components of emotional intelligence. You've got self-awareness, which talks about the ability to recognize and understand one's own emotions. In the video, she does mention being aware of your own emotions all the time. I don't think that's actually possible to do. Sometimes we need some self-reflection, which is generally what we learn anyway. And that's something that needs to be practiced. So we need to be able to be aware of maybe if we have a negative reaction to something and we need to think about it afterwards to say, well, why did that happen? Why did I feel that? Why did that come up for me? And that's where the self-awareness will come up. We've also got self-regulation, so it's the ability to control your own emotions. It's not having an outburst in a meeting. It's not having any unnecessary reaction to something. It's that kind of side of it, but also being able to do it in a healthy way. So what are your coping mechanisms? How do you handle it? Do you go for a walk? Do you take 5 minutes? Are you able to communicate how you're feeling in that moment in time? All that kind of stuff. And then when it talks about motivation, so it's that motivation to improve, to do better, to learn more from that side of it can be a really important part of emotional intelligence. And then with empathy, so it's the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Can anyone tell me what the difference between empathy and sympathy is?
One is you imagine how it would make then put yourself into that person's shoes.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one is just like, yeah, like feeling for that person.
Yeah. And there's a really good Brene Brown video that talks about the difference between empathy and sympathy. And it's like empathy, like you say, is like putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Whereas sympathy is like having yourself outside of it and being like, oh, that's really sucks. Like feel really bad, like it's that pity side of it, whereas empathy is being in the feeling with someone, which can be a really important part of it. And that again is something that we can practice. And then obviously you've got social skills. So there's the ability to manage healthy relationships, social complexities, and influence others. So it's like connections with people, like talking to people in the office, building relationships. And again, even reading the room from that side of it is an incredibly important aspect. Okay. So whenever we talk about it, we have the impact. So what would be the impact of high self-awareness? What's the value in it and what should
Kind of understand how you interact with other people, and you know how you come across to people, basically. Yeah.
I'd say having high self-awareness in most situations will allow you to show up as your best self. If you know that something's going to trigger you, what you can do to minimize that to make sure that you show up as a in the workplace professional.
definitely? And then even if you think about the flip side of it, so the impact of having poor self-awareness might just be the fact that, you know, people don't necessarily enjoy being around you because you're very selfish, maybe, or you kind of don't take other people's feelings in consideration. And then even with self-regulation, I'm just going to click on to the next slide. So it talks about the fact that the impacts, as we just mentioned, of self-awareness is it can drive your strengths, make you more aware of your weaknesses, so you know what to work on, how you can improve from that side of it. Like Danny said, it's being aware of how you're triggered and then you choose how to react. When self-awareness is missing, it can lead to conflict. So it can actually just make it, sounds a bit dramatic, but it can make you be a bit disliked if you're not self-aware, because it's kind of like you have no consideration for others, you're only worried about yourself, you can be a bit hypocritical, you're not aware of the impact that's happening to other people. And then whenever we look at self-regulation, so the impact of having high self-regulation is obviously you can compromise easier, you're aware of that, you know how to de-escalate yourself. Maybe if you're feeling a bit stressed, heightened, upset, whatever, you know how to de-escalate and you don't then take it out on other people, which is incredibly important. You can be more willing to persevere, you can be more resilient, and then like you bounce back easier from setbacks and all that kind of stuff can be really important. And then whenever self-regulation is missing, people can seem like they're being more controlled by their emotions. They can be draining to be around, especially, which again isn't good for a collaborative workspace. And then you can struggle to adapt to different situations. So we all know someone generally that if they get stressed, it's the end of the world. And it causes stress for other people and it's not pleasant. And then again, whenever we move on to motivation, so you've got the high motivation is successful, ambitious, you get things done, people know they can count on you to do it. They're always trying to improve, trying to strive to be better. And then again, whenever it's missing, people tend to like fall behind, they don't move forward, they can be a bit stagnant, they can seem like they're a bit negative. It can mean that you don't necessarily get recognised in the workplace because you stand out, all that kind of stuff. And then with empathy, we talk about being more supportive of other people, training, mentoring, helping others, being that soundboard that some people may need, or even just listening to people whenever they need it. And then whenever it's missing, it can make people feel like you just don't care about them, like you only care about yourself, or you've got that wall of like just the illusion of caring, and it can lead to frustration. And then finally, whenever we talk about social skills, good teamwork, building connections, good communication. And then whenever it's missing, it can be the fact that people can feel more isolated or again not valued, getting bad teamwork, all that kind of stuff. Okay. So how do you think you could improve self-awareness? What do you think you could do?
Take time to reflect. Like you said, like if you have like a conflict or something that's kind of wild, you want to take that time afterwards to be like, oh wait, maybe I should have, or like how you could back to it.
It's just taking the breath in the moment as well, necessarily having to respond or react immediately. It's fine to just take a second and process and then respond accordingly.
Okay. And then self-regulation, how do you think you can improve?
Great to understanding what consequences are. Something is not done all the time. Really, obviously, it's important, but truth is the end of the world, and that can go the long way to control your reaction and emotions.
Definitely. Do you think we can improve our motivation?
So, I think some people are more naturally motivated than others. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel when they want to get there, but I think you can work on it, improve it.
Definitely. Empathy?
I think it's taking a moment. Like sometimes empathy doesn't come naturally, or if you haven't been in that situation, it is harder to be like, oh, this person must be feeling, or whatever, but just to take a second.
Knowing the background of what the other person's doing is important as well. Having that fuller picture of understanding what they're doing. So yeah, don't know that they have to get this done. For example, then you won't think it's important. Yeah. So yeah.
Social skills?
I'm just doing it.
Just do it.
Yeah. Which is difficult, I know. I think you're only gonna get better at reading social cues or getting to know people and having those better exchanges if you do it more often.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of it, the reflection after the fact. How did that go? What could be done better?
Mhm.
Go well.
Something comes more naturally than others, I guess. So it's difficult on some people a bit more. Just,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got different personalities. Some people are more introverted, some people are more extroverted, some people are introverted but pretend to be extroverted. So it just kind of depends, and it's being aware of that.
Yeah.
And I think one thing with social skills, it's important to recognize that you actually don't need to take everything personally.
Mm.
And I used to be really bad for this, like especially whenever I started on reception, if I was like, good morning, and someone didn't speak to me, I'd be like, well, they obviously don't like me.
Yeah.
So, but whenever you realize that the world doesn't revolve around you, it's actually quite nice.
Yeah.
And you don't need to take it personally, and you just like people are different. Sometimes people aren't morning people, sometimes they just want to talk, and that's okay. Yeah, it's just kind of meeting people where they're at. Which of these do you think you'd like to improve on?
Social skills.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think for me and my role, definitely empathy.
Mhm.
Just remembering there is a person at the end of it, and yeah, just trying to meet them where they're at and support them through that, or at least have a bit of more of an understanding as to how they come to be in that situation in the first place.
A bit of background.
I would say motivation. I feel like my motivation as a whole is good, and the outcome can be, the motivation for the outcome can be good, but when you're, just talking about this day at this time after this has happened, or, it's Monday morning or whatever, like I guess more like short term.
Yeah. No, I get that. I'll be honest, one thing motivation is one thing I struggle with. Especially if it's like something that's quite prolonged. Because you can almost forget why you started doing something.
Yeah.
Or like you say, you get to a certain mood or something happens in life and you just think,
When you hit the struggles.
yeah, literally. So one of the ways to improve emotional intelligence, we're going to go through each of them. And then we'll have a bit of a break, depending on time. So with self-awareness, there can be different ways of improving it. So you can keep a journal. Does anyone keep a journal? I tried. I forgot. It didn't work.
What was that?
A little while ago, people were talking about, oh, you should do like journaling, so you can. And I do completely understand why people do it. So apparently, I will say, I sound hypocritical because I've never done it. Apparently, journaling can be really good because it can help you recognize patterns in your behavior and feelings. So say if you feel anxious before a certain meeting or before a certain interaction with someone, it can help you recognize that over a period of time. So which can help your self-awareness. Is the one thing I struggled with was remembering to do it. And there's even like, I think you can get apps and stuff on your phone. Like a journaling app appeared on my phone a little while ago. And it was like, yeah, with like a prompt being like, how was your day? And it's like, I don't want to talk to you, you know? So it's just, it personally doesn't work for me, but I think a lot of people can be quite keen on journaling. Another thing you can do is like seek feedback. So you can actually just ask people's opinions. Like, how do you think I handled that meeting? Do you think that presentation went well? What do you think I could have done better? What impression did I give? What was your first impressions of me? Like all that kind of stuff can be a really good thing to get feedback. Is anyone keen on mindfulness?
Again, I can see why people do it, but
Yeah.
it's not very much for me.
It's another one for those. It's not for me. Because it's all about by that like being present and being still. All of that. It does not suit an ADHD person at all. But I can see why people do it again, and it's just kind of recognizing your emotions and being aware, and being present. With self-regulation, so you can have the coping strategies, and I would say healthy coping strategies. So some people suggest doing like deep breathing, which can lend into mindfulness. Exercise, taking breaks, going for walks, just have something that can be like a little outlet for you. So it can help kind of de-stress you and get you back to your baseline of being okay. learn to set boundaries with people, learn to say no and be comfortable with that. You can't please everyone all the time, and you need to be okay and get comfortable with just saying no to people, or say that you don't have the capacity or you don't have the time to do it or anything like that. It's just communicating your needs is incredibly important.